You know that exact moment when you stop checking your bank account like it's a horror movie? When you can buy groceries without doing mental math? When an unexpected $500 expense doesn't trigger a panic attack? There's a specific dollar amount where this transformation happens. And I'm not talking about becoming a millionaire or hitting six figures. I'm talking about a number that's actually achievable for most people within 3 to 5 years, if they're intentional about it. Most financial influencers will tell you that you need $1 million to feel wealthy, or that $100,000 is the magic milestone. They're wrong. There's a much smaller threshold that completely rewires your brain and transforms your entire relationship with money, work, and opportunity. That number is $50,000. And once you understand why this number changes everything, you'll never look at saving the same way again. My name is Thomas, and I've spent the last decade obsessing over financial psychology and why some people effortlessly build wealth while others stay stuck in the same patterns for their entire lives. I'm not a trust fund kid. I didn't inherit money. I built my first $50,000 from absolute zero while making less than $48,000 per year. And that single milestone changed my life more than any other financial decision I've ever made. Here's the truth. I didn't do it by just saving from my salary. I combined aggressive expense cutting, side income, and disciplined investing. I moved to a cheaper apartment. I drove a 12-year-old car. I worked side gigs on weekends. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. If you want to understand the real mechanics behind wealth building instead of just hoping things magically improve, hit that subscribe button. And if this video shifts how you see money, give it a like. That helps YouTube share this message with more people who need to hear it. Here's what most people get wrong about building wealth. They think it's linear. Save $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000, slowly grinding towards some distant goal. Every dollar feels equally hard to save, equally insignificant in the grand scheme. But that's not how wealth building actually works. Wealth building has invisible thresholds, financial tipping points where the entire game changes. Cross one of these thresholds, and suddenly the rules are different, the opportunities are different, and most importantly, your psychology is completely different. $50,000 is the first major threshold that separates people who will build significant wealth from people who will spend their entire lives living paycheck to paycheck. And the crazy part? Most people have no idea this line even exists. Think about pushing a massive boulder up a steep hill. At the beginning, you're straining with everything you've got. You're sweating, exhausted, making maybe 6 inches of progress for every ounce of energy you put in. You're starting to wonder if you're strong enough, if it's even possible, if you should just give up. That's what saving your first $10,000 feels like. But here's what happens if you keep pushing. As you get closer to the top, something starts to shift. The momentum builds, the boulder moves a little easier, and then, suddenly, you crest the hill. Now gravity is working with you instead of against you. The boulder that took everything you had to move 6 inches is now rolling forward on its own. You're still pushing, but now every ounce of effort moves you 6 feet instead of 6 inches. $50,000 is that crest. Everything before this point, you're fighting uphill against gravity. Everything after gravity is your ally. And here's the part that will blow your mind. The difference isn't just mathematical, it's psychological. Your brain literally rewires itself when you cross this threshold. When you don't have money saved, your brain operates in what neuroscientists call scarcity mode. Every financial decision gets filtered through fear and survival. You take the first job offer that comes along, even if it's terrible, because you can't afford to wait. You stay in toxic situations because leaving feels too risky. You say yes to things you hate because you need the money. This isn't about being weak or lacking discipline. When your brain is in scarcity mode, it literally cannot think about growth and opportunity. It's like trying to plan a vacation while your house is on fire. Every mental resource is consumed by immediate threats. Princeton researchers proved this. They gave people cognitive tests under 2 conditions, with financial security and without it. The same people performed significantly worse when they were worried about money. Not because they became less intelligent, but because their mental bandwidth was hijacked by financial stress. They called it the cognitive tax of poverty. Even if you're not technically poor, living without savings creates the same mental burden. But something remarkable happens when you hit $50,000. Suddenly, your brain has room to breathe. The fire is out. You can think clearly again. Instead of asking, "How do I survive until next paycheck?" you start asking, "How can I grow this money?" Instead of being reactive to whatever crisis pops up, you become proactive about building wealth. Research from Vanguard shows that having just $2,000 in emergency savings increases your financial well-being by 21%. $2,000, less than most people spend on a vacation. Push that to 6 months of living expenses, which for most Americans lands somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000, depending on your lifestyle, and you get another massive boost. But more importantly, you've created enough breathing room for your brain to shift from survival thinking to strategic thinking. This is the unlock that changes everything. Now let's talk about why the math becomes magical at this level. Let's say you're saving $1,000 every month and earning a conservative 8% annual return on your investments. Getting to your first $50,000 takes about 42 months. That's 3.5 years of consistent saving and investing. I know what you're thinking. "Thomas, I don't have a $1,000 extra every month." I didn't either at first. Here's what I did. I saved $400 from my paycheck, made $300 from weekend freelance work, and another $300 from selling things I didn't need and cutting subscriptions. It wasn't $1,000 from my salary, it was $1,000 total from multiple sources. That's 3.5 years of discipline, of saying no to things you want, of delayed gratification. It's brutal. Most people quit somewhere between month 8 and month 18 because the progress feels so slow. But here's where it gets wild. Your second $50,000 doesn't take another 42 months. With the same $1,000 monthly contribution, it only takes about 33 months. Wait, what? You saved the exact same amount every month. You took the exact same level of risk, but you shaved 9 months off the timeline. Why? Because now you've got that first $50,000 working, alongside your monthly contributions. It's generating its own returns, about $4,000 per year at 8%. It's doing part of the heavy lifting while you sleep. By the time you're going for your third $50,000, the timeline shrinks to about 28 months, then 24 months for the fourth. And when you hit $500,000 in your investment portfolio, you can generate your next $50,000 in just 12 months through returns alone, even without adding a single dollar. This is compound interest shifting into hyperdrive. That first milestone feels impossible. Every milestone after gets progressively easier. Here's another mind-blowing example. When you invest $5,000 and it grows 10% in a year, you make $500. Nice, but not life-changing. Take that same 10% growth and apply it to $50,000. Suddenly, you're looking at $5,000 in profit. Same investment strategy, same time frame, same risk level. The only difference is scale. When you've got $50,000 invested earning 8% annually, that's $4,000 flowing into your account over the year without you lifting a finger. Money you didn't earn through your job. Money that appeared because your existing money was working on your behalf. The investment strategy isn't more sophisticated. You're buying the same index funds someone with $1,000 can buy. Same brokerages, same principles. The only difference is scale, and that scale transforms small percentage wins into real financial momentum. But here's what most people completely miss, and this might be the most important point in this entire video. When you save $50,000, you haven't just accumulated money in a bank account. You've fundamentally rewired your identity. Think about what it actually takes to save $50,000 starting from zero. Unless you're making 6 figures or living rent-free, this requires serious discipline. You had to track every dollar. You had to say no to things you desperately wanted. You had to resist the constant temptation to blow your savings on whatever caught your attention. You had to do this consistently for years. And most importantly, you proved to yourself that you can control money instead of letting it control you. You became the type of person who can delay gratification when it matters. That's not just a financial skill. That's a life skill that affects everything you do. This identity shift is massive because it changes every financial decision you make going forward. Before you had $50,000 saved, buying a $5 latte required mental gymnastics. Can I afford this? Should I make coffee at home? What if I need this money later? After you hit $50,000, You're not sweating small purchases anymore, not because you're careless, but because you know you have your priorities straight. You've proven you can make big sacrifices when necessary. There's a psychological concept called self-efficacy. It's your belief in your ability to succeed at specific tasks. Every time you hit a financial goal, your self-efficacy increases. You start believing you can do hard things. And when you believe you can do hard things, you start attempting harder things. Getting to $50,000 proves you can get to $100,000. And $100,000 proves you can get to $250,000. Each milestone builds on the last, creating a flywheel of success. But there's another psychological shift that happens at $50,000 that completely changes how you experience life. You start seeing opportunities instead of just threats. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, every unexpected expense is a disaster. Your car needs $800 in repairs? Financial emergency. Your laptop dies? Catastrophe. Your rent goes up $100? Crisis mode. These aren't opportunities. They're threats that derail your entire month, sometimes your entire year. But when you have $50,000 in the bank, these same events become minor inconveniences. Your car needs repairs? Annoying. But you pull $800 from your account and move on with your life. Your laptop dies? Time to upgrade to something better that will last years. Your rent goes up? Maybe it's finally time to negotiate a raise or look for a better place. The event is identical. Your response is completely different. Even better, you start noticing opportunities that were always there but you couldn't capitalize on before. Your friend is starting a business and looking for investors. Before, you would have thought, that sounds interesting, and moved on. Now you can actually evaluate whether it's worth investing $10,000. A killer deal appears on a rental property that needs work. Before, you scrolled past it on Zillow with a mix of envy and resignation. Now you can run the numbers and see if it makes sense. Your boss mentions a conference in another city that could accelerate your career, but the company won't pay for it. Before, you made excuses about why you couldn't afford the $2,000 trip. Now you can weigh the potential return on investment. This is what wealthy people mean when they say, money goes to money. It's not some cosmic conspiracy where the universe rewards people who already have cash. It's that having money gives you options, and options create more opportunities to make money. The person with $500 in their account can't invest in their friend's business, can't buy the undervalued property, can't attend the career-changing conference. So they stay where they are. The person with $50,000 can do all three if they choose. Even if only one of those opportunities pans out, they're now significantly ahead. This is the compound effect of opportunity, and it's even more powerful than the compound effect of interest. Now let's talk about what happens to your career once you hit this milestone, because this is where things get really interesting. Having $50,000 saved doesn't just change your relationship with money. It fundamentally transforms your relationship with work. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're trapped in whatever job you currently have. Your boss could be terrible, your coworkers could be toxic, the work could be soul-crushing. But you can't leave because you need that next paycheck to survive. This puts you in an incredibly weak negotiating position. You can't ask for a raise because you're afraid they might fire you. You can't push back on unreasonable demands because you need the job more than they need you. You can't explore other opportunities because taking time off for interviews feels too risky. You're stuck, and everyone knows it, especially your employer. But $50,000 changes the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you have what I call walking away money. Depending on your lifestyle, this could cover 12 to 24 months of lean living while you find something better. This doesn't mean you should be reckless or burn bridges, but it means you're negotiating from a position of strength instead of desperation. This psychological shift affects everything about how you approach your career. You start asking for the raise you deserve because the worst they can say is no, and you'll be fine either way. You push back on unreasonable requests because you're not afraid of consequences. You explore new opportunities because you can afford to take calculated risks. Here's what's really crazy. Often, you don't even need to use your walking away money. Just having it changes your entire demeanor at work. You become more confident, more assertive, more willing to take on challenging projects. You stop acting like a desperate employee and start acting like a valuable professional. And guess what? happens when you show up differently. People notice. Suddenly you're getting better assignments, more recognition, faster promotions, and yes, more money. It's like having a secret superpower that you hope you never have to use, but knowing it's there transforms how you operate. A study by the Economic Policy Institute found that workers with emergency savings are 50% more likely to ask for raises and 3 times more likely to change jobs for better opportunities. The best part? The more confident and successful you become at work, the faster you build wealth, which gives you even more options and confidence. It's a positive feedback loop that accelerates over time. But here's where most people absolutely destroy themselves, and I see it constantly. They finally hit $50,000. They feel that psychological shift. They feel successful for the first time in their lives, and then they immediately blow it on something stupid. Maybe they decide they deserve a new car since they've been so disciplined. Or they take an expensive vacation because they've earned it. Or they use it as a down payment on a house they can't really afford. Do not do this. That $50,000 is not a reward for good behavior. It's not a trophy to celebrate. It's the foundation of your entire financial future. It's the seed that grows into generational wealth if you're patient enough to let it compound. Here's a stat that will probably make you laugh or cry depending on your situation. The average American spends more money on their car over their lifetime than it would take to achieve financial independence. Think about that. Between car payments, insurance, maintenance, gas, and depreciation, most people spend $500 to $700 every month on transportation. Over a 40-year period, that's $240,000 to $336,000 just to get from point A to point B. Meanwhile, they're complaining they can't afford to save for retirement. The moment you drive a new car off the lot, it loses 15 to 20% of its value. You're not just spending money, you're actively destroying wealth. Compare that to investing the same amount in a diversified portfolio. Instead of watching your money evaporate, you're watching it multiply. That $30,000 car isn't just $30,000. It's $30,000 that could have grown to over $200,000 in your investment account over 20 years at 10% returns. Suddenly, driving a reliable used car doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It feels like a strategic choice that's funding your future freedom. And here's the beautiful irony. The person driving the flashy new BMW is probably stressed about money and lying awake at night worried about payments. The person driving the 8-year-old Honda is quietly building wealth and sleeping like a baby. This mindset shift extends to every major financial decision. Housing, education, vacations, hobbies, everything gets filtered through the lens of opportunity cost. Not in an obsessive way that sucks all joy out of life, but in a strategic way that ensures you're making intentional choices about where your money goes. Once you start thinking this way, something fascinating happens. You realize you don't actually want half the stuff you thought you wanted. That bigger apartment? The extra space would be nice, but is it worth delaying financial independence by 2 to 3 years? That expensive hobby? It's fun, but there are probably cheaper ways to get the same satisfaction. This isn't about becoming a penny-pinching miser who never enjoys anything. It's about becoming intentional with your money instead of letting it slip away on things that don't actually matter to you. When you have clear financial goals and understand the power of compound interest, it becomes much easier to distinguish between what you want and what you really want. Look, $50,000 isn't going to make you rich overnight, but it will fundamentally change how you think about money, work, and opportunity. It's the difference between surviving and thriving, between reacting to life and designing it, between being a victim of circumstances and being the architect of your future. The path to $50,000 isn't complicated, but it requires multiple strategies. Option 1. Save $1,000 per month for 42 months through salary plus side income. Option 2. Save $700 per month for 58 months, more sustainable pace. Option 3. Increase your income aggressively and save $1,500 per month for 30 months. The math is simple. The execution is hard, but every person who's built wealth started exactly where you are right now, with zero, with doubt, with fear. The only difference between them and people who stayed broke is they started, and they didn't quit. Your future self is watching you right now. They're hoping you make the right decision, They're counting on you to start building that foundation today. Trust me, in 3 to 5 years, they'll thank you for it. If this video changed how you see money, hit that like button and subscribe because I make videos like this every week. And drop a comment below telling me what your $50,000 plan is. Let's build wealth together.